My son called and said, "Dad, why did you freeze our account? My wife can't pay." I smiled, looked at the leather binder sitting on my kitchen table and said, "Daniel, bring your wife here. If she wants to know why the money stopped, she can ask the papers herself." For 3 full seconds, my son said nothing. All I heard was his breathing, shallow and nervous, like a man standing too close to a fire he helped start. Then a woman's voice snapped in the background. "Tell him to unlock it now." That was my daughter-in-law, Marissa. I did not raise my voice. I did not explain myself. I simply looked at the old clock above my stove, the same clock my wife Ellen bought at a flea market 31 years before, and said, "Come to my house before 8. Bring every card, every checkbook, and every lie you still think I believe." Daniel whispered, "Dad, what did you do?" I smiled again, not because I was happy, because after 11 months of pretending I was old, lonely, and too tired to notice what was happening, the first crack had finally appeared in their beautiful little plan. I said, "I froze the account because your wife made her first mistake." Then I hung up. My name is Harold Whitman. I am 69 years old, a retired forensic accountant from Cedar Falls, Iowa. For 38 years, I followed money for insurance companies, banks, estates, divorces, bankrupt businesses, and families who smiled in public while stealing from each other in private. I could look at a bank statement the way some men look at a weather map. I could see pressure building before the storm arrived. But my family forgot that. Or maybe they never really respected it. To them, I was just Dad. Old Harold, the quiet widower in the blue house at the end of Maple Ridge Road. The man who wore the same brown work jacket every winter, drove a 12-year-old Ford truck, clipped coupons at the grocery store, and kept a small vegetable garden behind the garage. They saw my modest life and mistook it for weakness. They saw my silence and mistook it for confusion. They saw my kindness and mistook it for permission. My wife Ellen died 4 years earlier from a stroke that came while she was watering roses by the porch. One minute she was calling me to bring her coffee. The next minute she was on the ground, and I was kneeling beside her with my hands shaking so badly I could not unlock my phone. After Ellen died, inside the house went quiet in a way no television could fix. The rooms felt too large. The kitchen table felt too wide. Her chair remained empty, but I still caught myself setting a second mug beside mine some mornings. Daniel was my only child. He was 42, a mortgage consultant with nice shoes, nervous eyes, and a lifelong talent for letting stronger people speak for him. I loved him. A father does not stop loving a son just because he grows weak. But weakness, when it stands beside cruelty and says nothing, becomes a kind of cruelty too. Marissa, his wife, was 39, polished like a knife. Blonde hair always perfect, nails always painted, voice always sweet when strangers were listening. She smelled like expensive perfume and talked about family values, while calculating what everyone around her could be used for. They had a daughter, my granddaughter Lily, 7 years old, with Ellen's gray-blue eyes and a habit of drawing suns in the corner of every paper she touched. Lily was the reason I kept helping them. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from in the comments. And if you have ever been betrayed by family after helping them, stay with me. Because what happened next changed everything. It started small, like most betrayals do. Daniel called one rainy Thursday night about 2 years after Ellen passed. His voice trembled. He said Marissa's hours had been cut, daycare costs were rising, and they were falling behind. He did not ask for money at first. He circled around it, embarrassed. I remembered him at 8 years old, standing in the kitchen with a broken baseball glove, afraid to tell me he had left it in the rain. So I helped. I opened what I called a family emergency account. It was not large at first. I put in $25,000 and gave Daniel limited access for groceries, diapers, school supplies, car repairs, or medical needs. I made the rules simple. Tell me what you need, use it only for essentials, and send me the receipt. For almost 6 months it worked. Then the receipts stopped coming. The withdrawals grew larger. A grocery store charge became a home decor store charge. A pharmacy charge became a designer handbag boutique in Chicago. A pediatric dentist payment became a spa membership. I noticed, of course. I noticed everything. But I said nothing. That was my first mistake, or maybe it was my first test. After Ellen died, I had promised myself I would not become bitter. I would not become one of those old men who counted every dollar and assumed every young person was selfish. So I gave Daniel chances, then more chances, then chances he did not deserve. Marissa began speaking to me as if my generosity was an obligation. At Thanksgiving, she told her sister in my own dining room, Harold is sitting on money he can't possibly use. At his age, what does he need it for? Daniel heard it. He looked down at his plate. He said nothing. That silence cut deeper than her words. A month later, she asked me to co-sign a loan for a better family vehicle. I said no. She smiled, tilted her head, and said, well, it's not really for us. It's for Lily's safety. But I understand if you're not that kind of grandfather. Daniel sat beside her on my sofa, staring at the carpet. He said nothing. I let her talk. By spring, she had begun making comments about my house. Too many stairs for you. Too much yard. You know, Harold, old people fall when they live alone. Then she laughed softly, as if concern could hide the smell of greed. The blue house on Maple Ridge Road was not just a house. Ellen and I bought it when Daniel was 3. I painted the nursery yellow. Ellen planted the rose bushes. We measured Daniel's height on the pantry door every birthday until he was 16 and too proud to stand still. Marissa once ran her finger down those pencil marks and said, this old door should really be replaced. That was the first time I understood she did not see history. She saw resale value. Still, I helped. When Daniel's mortgage fell behind, I covered 3 months. When Lily needed speech therapy their insurance refused to pay for, I paid the clinic directly. When their water heater broke, I sent a plumber. When Marissa said their credit cards were temporarily strained, I paid off $18.400 because Daniel cried on the phone and said he felt like a failure. He was my son. I was still trying to save him from shame. But while I was saving him, Marissa was studying me. She asked casual questions. Who handles your will now that Ellen is gone? Do you keep most of your money at Cedar Falls Community Bank? Did you ever give Daniel power of attorney? Do you have life insurance still? Each question came with a little smile. Each smile had teeth behind it. I answered vaguely. I said things like, my affairs are in order, and the bank knows what to do. She hated that. Greedy people do not fear poverty as much as they fear locked doors. Then one afternoon, Lily changed everything. It was a Saturday in October. I had picked her up from school because Daniel said he had a late client meeting, and Marissa was at a women's leadership lunch. Lily climbed into my truck holding her purple backpack against her chest like it contained something alive. She was quiet on the way home. Too quiet. At a red light, I looked at her in the rearview mirror and said, "You okay, Pumpkin?" She nodded, but her mouth trembled. When we got to my house, she sat at the kitchen table and drew a picture of a house with a big red X over it. I asked, "What's that?" she whispered. "Mommy said we're getting your house when you go to the quiet place." My hand stopped on the coffee mug. "The quiet place?" She nodded. "The place where old people go when they forget things." I kept my face calm because children listen to adult faces before adult words. I said, "Did Mommy say I forget things?" Lily looked down. "She said we have to practice saying it if people ask." The kitchen light buzzed above us. Outside, wind dragged leaves across the porch. I felt something cold move through my chest, not fear exactly, but recognition. For decades, I had investigated fraud. I knew the smell of a plan before I could see the paperwork. And that sentence from a 7-year-old child carried the weight of a signed document. We have to practice saying it if people ask. That night, after Lily fell asleep on my couch under Ellen's old quilt, I walked to the hallway closet and pulled down a locked fireproof box. Inside were documents most people in my family did not know existed. Trust papers, property deeds, bank mandates, a medical directive, a durable power of attorney naming my attorney, not Daniel. A letter from my neurologist after a voluntary cognitive exam I had taken 6 months earlier, when Marissa first started making comments about my memory. The letter said I was mentally competent, independent, and showed no signs of cognitive decline. I placed it on the kitchen table. Then I opened my laptop. By midnight, I had downloaded 11 months of account activity. By 2 in the morning, I had highlighted every questionable transaction. By sunrise, the first page of the leather binder was finished. The binder was already on the table. Marissa had no idea. For the next 3 months, I became the old man they thought I was. I forgot small things on purpose. I asked Marissa to repeat dates. I let Daniel explain online banking to me while he leaned over my shoulder, never noticing the camera built into the bookshelf behind him. I allowed Marissa to take me to a doctor she recommended, a man named Dr. Paul Greer, whose office smelled like lemon cleaner and whose waiting room had no other patients. He asked me if I knew what year it was. I told him yes. He asked me to remember 3 words: apple, penny, table. I remembered them. Then he glanced at Marissa, and she frowned. That was when I knew the doctor was not there to examine me. He was there to help her build a record, so I built one too. The next morning, I called Rebecca Sloan. Rebecca was 58, an estate attorney in Des Moines with silver hair, sharp glasses, and the kind of calm voice that made dishonest people sweat. I had worked with her years earlier on a corporate embezzlement case. She knew how families behaved when inheritance was close enough to taste. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Harold, do not confront them yet. Let them make their paper trail." So I let them. That is the part most people do not understand about calm revenge. It is not doing nothing. It is doing nothing visible. I hired a private investigator named Thomas Reed, a former sheriff's deputy, who moved slowly, spoke softly, and missed very little. He followed the paper first, then the people. Within 3 weeks, he found the first hidden account, then the second, then the third. All three had Marissa's name tied to them. One account had received transfers from the family emergency account, in amounts just small enough to avoid automatic internal review, $4,800, $6,200, $3,950, $9,700, over and over. 43 transactions in 11 months, total $247,300. That was more than generosity abused. That was theft dressed in family language. Thomas also found something worse. A real estate appraiser had visited my house while I was at my Tuesday morning veterans breakfast. I am not a veteran, but my best friend George is, and after Ellen died, the men invited me anyway because they said grief was service of another kind. The appraiser had been let in by Marissa. The security camera by my garage caught her using the spare key from under the ceramic frog near the porch steps. That spare key had been there for 20 years. Only family knew it existed. She walked through my house with the appraiser pointing at rooms like she owned them. In the footage, she stood in Ellen's sewing room and said, "Most of this junk will be cleared out." I watched that clip 5 times. Not because I needed proof. Because I needed to teach my heart what my mind already knew. They were not waiting for me to die. They were trying to move me out while I was still breathing. Then Rebecca found the court filings. Not filed yet, prepared. A petition for emergency guardianship. A draft affidavit claiming I was confused, isolated, financially irresponsible, and vulnerable to exploitation. The exploitation part nearly made me laugh. Marissa had written herself into the story as my rescuer. Daniel had signed one draft statement. His signature sat at the bottom of a page, saying he had grave concerns about my ability to manage my property. I stared at that signature for a long time. My son's handwriting still leaned slightly to the left, just like it had when he was 12 and rushing through homework before baseball practice. A father remembers these things. That was the first real betrayal, not Marissa's greed, not the money, not the house. It was Daniel taking a pen in his hand and turning concern into a weapon. Rebecca asked if I wanted to call him. I said no. "Why not?" she asked. "Because if I warn him," I said, "I'll never know how far he was willing to go." The leather binder grew thicker. Bank statements, cam stills, cams text messages, appraiser records, draft court papers, copies of forged checks, a handwriting analysis, a second medical evaluation from an independent neurologist, a statement from Lily's school counselor, who had documented Lily saying, "Mommy says Grandpa is going away." Every page had a tab. Every tab had a number. Every number had a purpose. By the time Daniel called screaming about the frozen account, the binder had been sitting on my kitchen table for 3 days. The truth was sitting inches from their hands. They just had to come close enough to touch it. At 7:42 that evening, headlights swept across my curtains, not Daniel's old sedan. Marissa's white Mercedes SUV. It rolled into my driveway like a threat wearing chrome. I stood at the kitchen sink washing one coffee mug, listening to the engine idle too long. Then the doors opened. Heels clicked on my walkway. Daniel's footsteps came slower. The porch light caught them through the front window. Marissa wore a cream wool coat, tall boots, and gold earrings that flashed when she moved her head. She looked furious, but not frightened yet. That would come later. Daniel looked pale. His tie was loosened. His hair was damp at the temples. He did not knock. Marissa pushed the door open with the spare key. That was her second mistake. She stepped into my home without permission and said, "Harold, this little performance ends right now." I dried my hands on a dish towel. Daniel avoided my eyes. Marissa tossed her handbag onto Ellen's old chair. I looked at it, then at her. Move your bag, I said. She blinked. Excuse me, that was my wife's chair. Daniel swallowed but still said nothing. Marissa laughed once. This is exactly what I mean. You are getting emotional over furniture while our family is in crisis. Our family, I said quietly. Yes, she snapped. Your son's account was declined in front of people. I was at the pharmacy. Do you know how humiliating that was? I looked at Daniel. Were you at the pharmacy? He opened his mouth, but Marissa answered for him. That's not the point. No, I said. It usually isn't. She moved closer to the table and noticed the binder. Black leather, silver corners, a neat white label on the front. Whitman Family Emergency Account Review. Her eyes flicked over it. For the first time, her voice lowered half an inch. What is that? I pulled out a chair and sat down. If you want answers, I said, sit at my kitchen table. Daniel whispered, Dad, please just tell us what's going on. Marissa remained standing. No, she said. We are not playing courtroom with an old man who got his feelings hurt. Unlock the account tonight. Then tomorrow we will all sit down with someone qualified and discuss your behavior. Someone qualified, I repeated. Yes, a doctor, a financial advisor, maybe an elder care specialist. There it was, not hidden anymore. Just polished. I looked at Daniel again. He looked at the floor. That silence was louder than shouting. I let her talk. She stepped closer. Perfume filling the kitchen. You have become controlling, Harold. Bitter. Paranoid. You use money to manipulate Daniel because you can't stand that he has his own family now. Daniel's hands curled, but he still said nothing. She pointed at me. You are not the victim here. You are an old man making everyone miserable because you're lonely. There are moments when words enter the body like small knives. Not because they are true. Because someone you fed at your table is willing to use your grief as a weapon. I thought of Ellen's empty chair. I thought of the second coffee mug I still almost poured. I thought of Lily drawing a red X over my house. Still, I did not raise my voice. I opened the binder. The first page was a simple summary, dat range. January 3 to November 29, authorized use, family emergency expenses, reviewed transactions, 126 flagged transactions, 43. Total unauthorized transfers, $247, $300. I slid it across the table with 2 fingers. The paper made a soft sound against the wood. Marissa looked down. Her face changed so quickly that anyone else might have missed it. But I had spent my life watching people realize paper does not care how pretty their lies are. She recovered fast. What is this supposed to be? Math, I said. Daniel finally looked at the page, his mouth opened. Marissa grabbed it first. This is ridiculous. These are family expenses. I turned to tab 1. January 14, transfer of $4, $800 to an account ending in 7712. Same day, purchase at Bellissima Home Interiors for $4,763. You told Daniel the money was for Lily's winter dental treatment. That was reimbursed, she said quickly. No, I said. It was not. I turned another page. February 3, $200 transferred. 2 hours later, payment to Aurelia Cosmetic Dermatology. Memo line, school tuition. Her lips tightened. Daniel whispered, Marissa? She shot him a look sharp enough to cut skin. I kept turning pages. March 19, $9,700. Deposit on a Caribbean cruise. April 2, $3D $950. Luxury boutique in Chicago. April 18, $12,000 cashier's check made payable to yourself. She laughed, but it came out wrong. Harold, you gave us access. For emergencies. Family emergencies can mean many things. Yes, I said. A handbag is not one of them. Daniel sat down slowly. I watched his face as he moved through confusion, then fear, then something that looked almost like relief because the secret was no longer only inside him. Marissa leaned over the table. You cannot accuse me of stealing money you willingly put into an account for your family. I did not freeze it because of the spending, I said. Her eyes narrowed. I froze it because of the transfers. I turned to tab 2, 3 bank forms, 3 different institutions, all opened within the same 6-week period, all connected to Marissa, all funded by transfers from the emergency account. She went still. That was when the kitchen changed. Before that moment she had been angry. Now she became careful. Criminals always become careful when they see organization. Daniel looked at her. What accounts? She said. Business accounts. You don't have a business, he whispered. She turned on him. Don't start. I tapped the page. Cedar Union Savings. First River Trust. North Prairie Credit. 3 accounts. 43 transfers. Total amount. $247,300. Daniel's voice cracked. Marissa, did you take that much? She pointed at me again. He is twisting everything. This is what controlling men do. They make gifts and then punish you for needing them. I looked at my son. Daniel? I said, did you know? His shoulders slumped. Marissa snapped, do not answer him. I said it again, softer. Did you know? The old refrigerator hummed. Rain tapped against the kitchen window. Daniel's lips moved once without sound. Then he whispered, some of it. Something inside me folded quietly. Not broke, not exploded. Just folded the way an old flag folds after a funeral. How much is some? I asked. He wiped his mouth with his hand. I knew she moved money around. I didn't know it was that much. Marissa said, Daniel. He flinched like a child. I leaned back. That was not the confession I needed. Not yet. So I turned to tab 3. 6 checks, all made payable from the emergency account, all bearing my name. Except I had not signed them. 6 forged signatures. Total, $85,600. Daniel stared at them, his face drained. Marissa whispered, those were reimbursements. For what? I asked. For things we paid for you. I nodded. Name one. She hesitated. That hesitation was louder than any confession. Name one, I said again. She looked at Daniel. He looked away. I turned the page to the handwriting report. A certified forensic document examiner had compared the signatures to known samples from my bank and my tax filings. The conclusion was clear. The questioned signatures were not written by Harold Whitman. The questioned signatures showed characteristics consistent with Marissa Whitman's handwriting. I slid that page toward her. She did not touch it. For the first time all night, her hands trembled. Only a little, but enough. Daniel whispered, you signed Dad's name. She slapped the table with her palm. I handled paperwork because your father is impossible. Do you know what it's like trying to help an old man who fights everyone? I smiled slightly. There it was again, help, the prettiest word in a thief's mouth. I closed the binder halfway. No one here helped me. Marissa's eyes sharpened. You are making a serious mistake, she said. No, I said. I waited until you made several. She straightened her coat and regained some of her theater. Fine. You want to play legal games? Let's play. Daniel and I have been very concerned about your mental state. You are isolated. You forget things. You accuse family. You are financially reckless. You clearly are not capable of managing these accounts. Daniel closed his eyes. She continued, stronger now because arrogance loves an audience. We have spoken to professionals. We have documentation. If you force this, we will file for guardianship. Emergency guardianship, Harold. And once the court sees how unstable you have become, this house, these accounts, all of it will be protected. Protected, I said. Yes, she said, from you. She had no idea. That was her first mistake. I opened tab 4, the guardianship petition draft, the affidavit, the doctor's preliminary note, the real estate appraisal request, the unsigned listing agreement for my house. I placed them one by one on the table. Not fast, not dramatic, just steady. Paper after paper. The color left Marissa's face so completely she looked older. Daniel stood up. Where did you get those? From the people you trusted more than me, I said. Marissa grabbed the draft petition. This is private legal preparation. No, I said. It is evidence of intent. You had no right. You used my granddaughter to rehearse dementia accusations, I said. That stopped both of them. Daniel looked confused. What? I looked at him, and for the first time that night, I let him see the hurt. Lily told me her mother said I was going to the quiet place. She said she had to practice saying I forget things. Daniel turned toward Marissa slowly. Marissa's jaw tightened. Children misunderstand. Not when they repeat adult phrases exactly. She is 7. Yes, I said, which makes what you did worse. Daniel sat back down hard, as if his knees had failed. I thought maybe this would wake him. Maybe he would finally stand. Maybe he would look at his wife and say, enough. But weakness is a habit, and some habits survive even shame. He looked at me and said, Dad, you have to understand. Marissa was scared. I stared at him. Scared of what? He swallowed. Scared you would cut us off. I almost laughed, but the sound never came. So she stole first? He had no answer. Marissa seized the moment. We have a child. We have bills. We have a life. You sit here in this paid-off house, judging us with money you don't even need. I let that sentence settle. Money you don't even need. There it was, the heart of it, not emergency, not family, not love, need. In Marissa's mind, anything I did not spend on myself already belonged to her. I turned to tab 5, photographs, still images from my porch camera. Marissa entering with the spare key. the appraiser behind her. Marissa pointing toward the staircase, Marissa in Ellen's sewing room, the appraiser measuring the den. Daniel looked at the photos, then at her. "You went inside Dad's house?" she said. "I was planning ahead." "For what?" he asked. "For the inevitable." The word hung in the kitchen like smoke. I felt Ellen beside me then, not as a ghost but as memory. Her voice sang, "Harold, when people show you who they are, don't argue with the picture." I reached into the binder pocket and removed a flash drive. Black, small, labeled Appraiser Visit. Marissa saw it. Her confidence cracked again. "I recorded that visit," I said. "You spy on your family," she whispered. "No," I said. "I protect my home." Daniel put both hands on his head. Marissa turned back to me, desperate now, which made her meaner. "You miserable old man, you set us up." I shook my head. "I set boundaries. You crossed them on camera." She leaned close enough that I could see the small pulse jumping in her neck. "You will regret humiliating me." "I'm not humiliating you," I said. "I invited you to my kitchen." She smiled suddenly, a strange, sharp smile. "Then maybe we should invite someone else." She pulled out her phone. Daniel said, "Marissa, don't." She ignored him and dialed. "I'm calling the police," she said loudly. "I'll tell them you threatened us, that you are unstable, that you are holding financial access hostage." I folded my hands. "Call them." Her finger paused. "People who bluff hate permission." I looked at the clock, 7:58. 2 minutes, I said. "Or you can wait." "For what?" The doorbell rang. Marissa jumped. Daniel turned toward the front hall. I stood slowly and walked to the door. On the porch stood 3 people under the yellow light. Rebecca Sloan, my attorney, carrying a black briefcase. Thomas Reed, the private investigator, holding a folder under his arm. And a woman in a navy coat with a Cedar Falls Community Bank badge clipped near her collar. Her name was Angela Morris, senior fraud officer. Behind them, at the curb, a sheriff's deputy sat in a patrol car, engine running. I opened the door wider. "Right on schedule," I said. Marissa stepped back as they entered. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller. Rebecca removed her gloves and looked at Marissa with professional calm. "Mrs. Whitman," Marissa said. "Who are you?" "Rebecca Sloan, counsel for Harold Whitman and trustee counsel for the Whitman Family Trust." Daniel looked at me. "Trust?" Angela Morris set a sealed bank folder beside the binder. "Mr. Whitman requested a fraud review after suspicious activity was identified across multiple accounts." Thomas Reed nodded to me, then placed his folder near the sink. "And I completed the investigative report regarding unauthorized property access and suspected financial exploitation." Marissa's eyes moved from one face to another. Her mind was running. I could almost see it. Lie to the attorney? Cry to the bank officer? Appeal to Daniel? Threaten me? She chose the performance. Her shoulders dropped. Her voice softened. Her eyes filled with quick tears. "This is a misunderstanding," she said. "Harold is grieving. He has been confused since Ellen died. We have been trying to help him, but he sees everything as an attack." Rebecca opened her briefcase. "That's interesting," she said, "because Mr. Whitman completed 2 independent capacity evaluations. One 6 months ago, one last week. Both confirm full legal capacity." She placed the reports on the table. Marissa looked at Daniel. But Daniel was staring at the word capacity. Angela opened her folder. "Also," she said, "the account was not simply frozen by family request. It was frozen under internal fraud protocol after suspected forged instruments, unauthorized transfers, and possible elder financial exploitation." "Elder exploitation?" Marissa said, offended. "Yes," Angela replied. "That is the category." Marissa's tears disappeared. "You can't prove intent." Thomas Reed said, "Intent is usually built from patterns." He opened his folder and removed a timeline. It ran across 3 pages. January. Emergency account access expanded. February. First hidden account opened. March. Doctor consultation arranged. April. Forged check 1. May. Appraiser visit scheduled. June. Guardianship attorney consultation. July. School comments to Lily documented. August. Forged check 4. September. Draft petition prepared. October. Second appraiser quote. November. Attempt to move $62,000 into First River Trust. Daniel bent over the timeline like he was reading his own sentence. Rebecca looked at him. "Mr. Whitman, did you sign the draft guardianship statement?" Daniel's mouth trembled. Marissa said, "Don't answer that without an attorney." Rebecca nodded. "That is good advice." Daniel looked at me, and suddenly he was not 42. He was 9 years old again, standing beside a broken window, wanting me to fix what he had done. "Dad," he whispered, I didn't think it would go this far. I did not speak. Rebecca did. How far did you think it would go, Daniel? He rubbed his eyes. We were just trying to get control before things got bad. Before what got bad? I asked. He stared at the table. Before I cut them off. Before I changed my will. Before their lies ran out of road. He did not have to say it. The binder had already said enough. Marissa suddenly grabbed her handbag from Ellen's chair. We're leaving. Angela stepped aside but said, You may leave, Mrs. Whitman. The account freeze remains. The bank will file its report. You will be contacted by investigators. Marissa pointed at her. This is a family matter. Angela's face did not change. Not once forged checks enter the bank. Rebecca added, and not once a guardianship petition is prepared using false medical claims. Thomas said, and not once someone enters a residence with a hidden key and brings an appraiser inside without consent. The sheriff's deputy knocked lightly on the open door frame. Everything all right in here? Marissa's face burned red. For 1 second, she looked exactly like what she was. Not elegant, not powerful, not misunderstood. Caught. I walked to the ceramic frog by the porch steps, lifted it, removed the spare key, and slipped it into my pocket. Then I looked at Daniel. You can leave with her tonight, I said. But understand something. This house is no longer open to either of you. His eyes filled. Dad, no, I said. That single word carried 4 years of loneliness, 2 years of excuses, 11 months of theft, and one child's drawing of a house with a red X over it. No, I repeated. You do not get to help plan my disappearance, and then ask for my sympathy because the plan failed. Marissa laughed bitterly. You are enjoying this. I looked at her. I am surviving it. That shut her mouth for a moment. They left in silence. The Mercedes backed out too fast. Tires spitting gravel from the edge of the driveway. Daniel did not look back. When the taillights disappeared, the kitchen became quiet again. The binder sat open. Ellen's chair was empty. Rebecca touched my shoulder gently. You did well. No, I said. I waited too long. She did not correct me. Good attorneys know when the law is not enough to comfort a man. The next morning, Cedar Falls Community Bank officially froze every account tied to the emergency fund, including the 3 hidden accounts Marissa had opened. The bank's fraud department filed a report with county authorities and referred the forged checks for criminal review. That should have been the end of the first battle. But people like Marissa do not stop because they are exposed. They stop when every door is locked. By noon, Daniel called 16 times. I did not answer. At 12:43, he left a voicemail. Dad, please. She's scared. We can fix this. Don't ruin our lives over money. Over money. I saved the voicemail. At 1:10, Marissa sent a text. You are going to look very cruel when people hear you cut off your son and granddaughter before Christmas. I sent it to Rebecca. At 1:37, another text came. Lily will remember who destroyed her family. That one I sent to Thomas too. At 2:15, Lily's school called me. Not Daniel, not Marissa. Me, her teacher, Mrs. Alvarez, spoke quietly. Mr. Whitman, I'm sorry to bother you, but Lily is very upset today. She told another child that her grandfather was going to make her homeless. I closed my eyes. There is a special kind of anger that comes when adults put fear into a child's mouth. It is not loud, it is clean. Like a blade washed in cold water. I called Rebecca, she said. That changes strategy. By the end of that week, we filed a petition of our own. Not for custody, not to punish, for protection. Rebecca drafted a request asking the court to preserve trust assets, block any unauthorized property action, restrict Marissa's access to accounts connected to my name, and document concerns about Lily being used in financial manipulation. The court scheduled a preliminary hearing for the following Thursday. Marissa responded exactly as Rebecca predicted, with tears, with emails, with accusations. She told extended family I had lost my mind. She told Daniel's cousins I was hoarding money while my granddaughter suffered. She posted a vague message online about elderly relatives weaponizing inheritance. She called my church friend Martha and said she was worried I might hurt myself. Martha, who was 76 and had survived 2 husbands and 1 dishonest son-in-law, simply asked, Did Harold ask you for money, dear? Or did you ask him? Marissa hung up. But the most dangerous move came 3 days before the hearing. A courier delivered a letter to my house. It came from Dr. Paul Greer, the doctor Marissa had recommended. The letter stated that based on his observations, I showed possible signs of cognitive rigidity, paranoia, financial misjudgment, and hostile fixation toward family members. Possible signs, a phrase built for courtrooms. Not proof, smoke. Rebecca read it once and smiled, not kindly. Good, she said. Good? He just entered the room. The next day, Thomas Reed delivered his supplemental report. It showed Dr. Greer had a business connection to Marissa's cousin, a woman named Dana, who owned a small elder care placement company. That company received referral fees from 2 assisted living facilities. One of those facilities had already prepared an intake estimate for me. Private room, Care wing, monthly cost, $9,800, projected funding source. Liquidation of primary residence, my house, Ellen's Roses, the pantry door, all reduced to a funding source. I sat in Rebecca's office holding that paper for the first time since the phone call. My hands shook. Rebecca noticed but said nothing. I whispered, they priced my cage. Rebecca's face softened. Yes, she said. And now we show the judge the receipt. The hearing was held in a small county courtroom with wood-paneled walls and fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. I wore my gray suit, the one Ellen had liked because she said it made me look respectable but not proud. Rebecca sat beside me. Daniel and Marissa sat across the aisle with an attorney named Leonard Pike, a man with a red face and a voice made for objections. Marissa wore navy blue and no jewelry except a small cross necklace I had never seen before. Her hair was pinned back. Her eyes looked damp before anyone had spoken. Performance had entered the building. Daniel looked like he had not slept. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered his signature. The judge, Patricia Harlan, was in her early 60s with short dark hair and no patience for wasted time. She read the case name, adjusted her glasses, and looked at both tables. This is a preliminary matter regarding financial restrictions, trust preservation, and allegations of exploitation. I will remind everyone this is not family therapy. Speak through counsel. Marissa lowered her eyes as if wounded. Rebecca began calmly. Your Honor, Mr. Whitman is a competent adult who discovered unauthorized transfers totaling $247,300 from a limited family emergency account, 6 forged checks totaling $85,600, and preparations for an emergency guardianship petition based on false claims of incapacity. We are asking the court to preserve assets and prevent further unauthorized action while criminal and civil reviews proceed. Leonard Pike stood. Your Honor, this is a grieving elderly man misinterpreting family assistance as theft. My clients were trying to manage a difficult situation. Mr. Whitman has become increasingly suspicious, aggressive, and financially punitive. Aggressive, he almost smiled. I had raised my voice exactly 0 times. Pike continued, Mrs. Whitman has been the primary organizer of family support, and she became concerned when Mr. Whitman began obsessively tracking expenses and isolating himself. Judge Harlan looked at me. Mr. Whitman, are you represented by Miss Sloan? Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand the nature of today's hearing? Yes, Your Honor. What are we here about? I looked at Daniel first, then Marissa, then the judge. We are here because my daughter-in-law stole from an account I created to help my granddaughter, forged my name, prepared to claim I was incompetent, and tried to position my house for sale before I knew I was supposed to be unable to live in it. The courtroom went quiet. Judge Harlan wrote something down. Clear enough, she said. Rebecca presented the first documents, bank statements, toneration summaries, copies of checks, the handwriting report. Angela Morris, from Cedar Falls Community Bank, testified briefly. She was precise and careful. She explained the pattern of transfers, the forged instruments, and the freeze. Pike tried to suggest I had authorized broad use. Angela replied, broad use does not include signing another person's name. That line landed harder than he expected. Then came Dr. Greer's letter. Pike presented it as evidence of concern. Rebecca stood. Your Honor, we object to the characterization. Dr. Greer's letter was produced after one short visit arranged by Mrs. Whitman. We have 2 independent capacity evaluations from board-certified neurologists, both finding Mr. Whitman fully competent. She submitted them. Then she submitted Thomas Reed's report, showing Dr. Greer's connection to the elder care referral business. Judge Harlan read silently. Her expression changed at the words memory care intake estimate. She looked at Marissa. Mrs. Whitman, did you contact an assisted living facility regarding Mr. Whitman? Marissa's attorney began to stand. The judge held up one hand. I am asking whether such contact occurred. Counsel may advise her if needed. Marissa glanced at Pike. He whispered to her. She swallowed. I made inquiries. For what purpose? To understand options. For whom? She lowered her voice. For Harold. I felt Rebecca's hand touch the edge of my sleeve, not comfort exactly. A reminder to stay still. The judge turned a page. An intake estimate lists projected funding source as liquidation of primary residence. Who provided that information? Marissa's mouth opened. Closed. Daniel stared straight ahead. Judge Harlan asked again. Who provided that information? Marissa whispered. I don't remember. I looked down at the table. There it was, the phrase people use when the truth is worse than silence. Rebecca stood. Your Honor, we have a recorded call between Mrs. Whitman and Northview Memory Care's intake coordinator. The recording was obtained by subpoena after the facility was informed of possible financial exploitation. Pike objected. The judge listened, then allowed a limited portion. Rebecca pressed play on a small courtroom speaker. Marissa's voice filled the room, bright and confident. He owns the house outright. Once Daniel has authority, we'll sell it. There's no point keeping an old house when he won't know where he is anyway. No one moved, not even Marissa. The recording continued. The intake coordinator asked, Does Mr. Whitman have a dementia diagnosis? Marissa laughed softly. Not yet, but we're working on documentation. Rebecca stopped the recording. In the silence that followed, I heard Daniel make a small sound. Not quite a sob, not quite a breath. The judge looked at Marissa for a long time. Then she looked at Daniel. Mr. Whitman the younger, did you know about this call? Daniel's attorney whispered quickly, but Daniel shook his head. No, Your Honor. Marissa turned to him, furious. He looked at me. For the first time in months, maybe years, he spoke without waiting for her permission. I knew about the guardianship idea, he said, voice breaking. I knew about the account transfers. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself Dad was being difficult. But I didn't know she called the facility like that. Marissa whispered, Daniel, stop. He did not stop. I signed the statement, he said. I shouldn't have. Dad never forgot things. I was scared. Judge Harlan leaned forward. Scared of your father? Daniel wiped his eyes. No, scared of my wife. The courtroom held its breath. Marissa stood so fast her chair scraped backward. That is pathetic, she hissed. Judge Harlan's voice cut through the room. Sit down, Mrs. Whitman. Marissa sat, but the mask was gone. Her face was hard now, ugly with anger. Rebecca then presented the final preliminary evidence. A copy of my trust, not the whole thing. Just enough. The Whitman family trust held my home, 3 rental properties in Cedar Falls, 2 commercial buildings downtown, a minority stake in a regional storage company, and investment accounts accumulated across decades of disciplined work, and Ellen's careful saving. Marissa had believed I was sitting on money. She was wrong. I was sitting on control. The trust named me as sole trustee while living. It named Rebecca Sloan as successor trustee if I became incapacitated. It did not name Daniel. It did not name Marissa. It contained a clause added after Ellen's death. Any beneficiary who attempted financial exploitation, coercive guardianship, forged authority, or bad faith asset seizure would be disqualified. Rebecca read the clause aloud. Marissa's face went white. Daniel looked at me as if I had become a stranger, but I had not changed. Only his understanding had. Pike objected that the trust clause was prejudicial. Judge Harlan said, It appears highly relevant. Rebecca continued. As of Monday, Mr. Whitman executed an amendment removing Daniel Whitman as a direct beneficiary pending further review and establishing a protected education and welfare trust for Lily Whitman, administered independently. Lily's support will not pass through either parent. Daniel bowed his head. Marissa whispered, You can't do that. I turned toward her. I already did. That was the first time she looked truly afraid, not because she might go to jail. Not because she had hurt me, because she understood Lily's trust would never touch her hands. Judge Harlan issued temporary orders that afternoon. All disputed accounts remained frozen. Marissa was prohibited from accessing or attempting to access any accounts connected to me or the trust. Any sale, transfer, lien, or appraisal activity involving my home or properties was blocked. The court referred the forged checks and financial exploitation evidence to the county attorney. The guardianship materials were preserved for investigation. Daniel was ordered not to contact me about money, property, or account access. Marissa was ordered not to contact me at all. As the judge read the orders, Marissa cried. This time the tears were not pretty. They were angry tears, humiliated tears. Tears of someone who had mistaken patience for blindness and discovered patience had been keeping records. Outside the courtroom, Daniel approached me. Rebecca stepped between us slightly, but I nodded. He stopped 6 feet away. His face looked gray. "Dad," he said. I waited. "I'm sorry." I looked at him, my only child, the boy whose first bike I had held steady while he pedaled down our driveway, the teenager I had driven through snowstorms to debate tournaments, the man I had handed money to because I still saw my child under his expensive coat. I wanted his apology to matter more. That was the cruelest part. "I believe you are sorry now," I said. His eyes filled again. "Can we fix this?" I looked through the courthouse window at the winter trees. "No," I said quietly. "You can face it. That is different." He flinched. Marissa stood behind him with her arms crossed, hatred burning in her eyes. "You turned him against me," she said. I almost laughed. No one had turned Daniel into anything. He had spent years turning away. Rebecca said, "Mrs. Whitman, the order is in effect." Marissa stepped back. I walked out of the courthouse without another word. But justice in court is never as clean as it looks from the outside. The weeks that followed were slow and bitter. Investigators interviewed bank staff. The county attorney reviewed forged checks. Dr. Greer's licensing board opened an inquiry after Rebecca filed a complaint with supporting documents. Northview Memory Care denied wrongdoing, but admitted Marissa had requested admission information under family authority she did not possess. Daniel moved into a motel for 12 days, then into a small apartment near his office. Marissa stayed in their house at first, but without access to the hidden funds, credit lines collapsed quickly. The Mercedes was repossessed in February. Their mortgage, already strained, fell behind by March. I did not celebrate. Do not misunderstand me. Consequences were necessary. But watching your child's life unravel, even when he helped weave the rope, does not feel like victory. It feels like standing in the rain after a house fire, grateful the flames are out, but still smelling smoke in your clothes. Lily came to my house every other Saturday, under a temporary family arrangement supervised by Daniel's sister-in-law, at first, then later by a court-approved coordinator. I never spoke badly about her mother in front of her. Children should not be handed adult poison. One Saturday, she walked into my kitchen and looked at the table. The leather binder was gone by then, locked in Rebecca's office, but Lily still stared at the place where it had sat. "Grandpa," she asked, "are you mad at Daddy?" I poured her hot chocolate in the mug with the chipped blue rim. "I'm sad at Daddy," I said. She considered that. "Is sad different?" "Yes," I said. "Mad wants to throw something. Sad wants something back that may not come back." She climbed onto the chair Ellen used to sit in. This time I let her. She held the mug with both hands. "Mommy said you froze us." I sat across from her. I froze money that was being used the wrong way. "Like when my teacher takes scissors if kids run with them?" I smiled. "A little like that." She nodded slowly, then she pulled a folded paper from her backpack. It was another drawing. This one showed a blue house with a yellow porch light. No red X. Beside the house were 2 people, one tall, one small. Above them she had written in crooked letters, "Safe place." I had to look away for a moment. Not because I was embarrassed, because my eyes had become full, and I did not want her to think sadness was danger. I placed the drawing on the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like an apple. Ellen had bought that magnet too. Some women never stop holding a house together, even after they are gone. The criminal charges came in late spring. Marissa was charged with forgery, bank fraud-related offenses under state law, and financial exploitation of an older adult. Her attorney negotiated for months. The final outcome was not dramatic like television. No screaming confession. No handcuffs in the courtroom while music swelled. Real justice is often paperwork and tired faces. She pled guilty to 2 felony counts and 1 misdemeanor count. The remaining charges were held in abeyance under strict conditions. She was ordered to pay restitution. She received probation, mandatory financial monitoring, community service, and was barred from serving in any fiduciary or financial management role. The court also entered a protective order preventing her from contacting me directly. Some people were disappointed she did not go to prison. I was not. I did not need Marissa in a cell. I needed her away from my accounts, my house, my granddaughter, and my peace. Daniel was not charged criminally because Rebecca and the county attorney agreed his cooperation mattered, and the evidence showed Marissa had executed the forgeries. But the court did not pretend he was innocent. His signed false statement became part of the civil record. His access to any trust benefit was removed. His inheritance was suspended indefinitely. He entered counseling, not because I demanded it, but because the family court strongly recommended it if he wanted a healthier relationship with Lily. The divorce came 6 months later. Marissa fought for everything until everything required receipts. That was where she kept losing. At the final family court hearing, Rebecca and I attended only for the portion regarding Lily's protected trust. Marissa wore black and looked thinner. Daniel wore a suit that did not fit quite right anymore. Marissa's attorney argued that any trust for Lily should consider parental discretion. Rebecca stood and said, "Your Honor, parental discretion is precisely what placed the child's financial support at risk." She presented the trust structure: education, medical care, counseling, clothing, extracurricular activities, future college funds, all paid directly to providers, not to Daniel, not to Marissa. Lily would be protected without becoming a prize. The judge approved it. Marissa cried again. I had learned by then that her tears often arrived when access disappeared. After the hearing, Daniel approached me in the hallway. This time he did not ask to fix things. He said, "I started therapy." I nodded. "I'm trying to understand why I let it happen." "That is between you and your conscience," I said. He accepted that. Then he said, "Lily drew your house at school again." "I know," I said. "She showed me." His mouth trembled. "She calls it the safe place." I looked at him. "Then make your home one too." He lowered his head. "I'm trying." For the first time in a long time, I believed he might be telling the truth. But belief is not trust. Trust is built like a house, board by board, nail by nail. And Daniel had helped burn the old one down. That winter, I changed the locks, not just the front door, every door, the garage keypad, the side gate, the storage units, the office downtown. I moved my important documents from the hallway closet to a safe deposit box at a different bank. I updated every beneficiary form. I added additional fraud alerts. I gave Rebecca full emergency authority under strict conditions. Then I did something I should have done years earlier. I removed the ceramic frog from the porch steps. Under it, for 20 years, had been a spare key. Ellen had always teased me about that. "Harold," she used to say, "one day a raccoon will steal our house." I held that little ceramic frog in my hand and laughed for the first time in weeks. Then I cried. Grief is strange like that. It waits behind ordinary objects: a key, a mug, a chair, a clock above the stove. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with Ellen's picture in front of me. It was from our 25th anniversary. She wore a blue dress and had one hand on my shoulder, laughing at something I probably said badly. I touched the edge of the frame. "I tried to keep the family together," I whispered. The house answered with silence, but not empty silence, honest silence, the kind that does not flatter you. The truth was simple. I had not kept the family together by helping Daniel. I had only delayed the moment when I would have to see what help had become. Money can reveal people faster than hardship sometimes. Hardship shows who will stand beside you. Money shows who was waiting for you to look away. By spring, the roses began growing again. I had neglected them during the court months. The bushes were tangled, thorny, half-wild. Martha from church came over with gloves and pruning shears and told me Ellen would haunt me if I let them die. So we worked for 3 hours under a pale sun. Martha talked about nothing important: the price of eggs, a neighbor's new mailbox, a recipe she hated but kept making because her grandson liked it. Sometimes mercy comes disguised as ordinary conversation. When we finished, she looked at the porch and said, "House feels lighter." I looked at the windows. The blue paint was peeling near the trim. The porch rail needed repair. The old place did not look rich. It looked lived in. That was enough. 2 weeks later, Lily came over with a small envelope. Inside was a school picture. She had lost one front tooth. Her hair was uneven because she had tried to cut just one piece herself. On the back in pencil she had written, "For Grandpa, safe place." I put it beside Ellen's picture. Then I made pancakes shaped badly like stars. Lily laughed so hard she spilled orange juice. For one whole morning, no one mentioned courts or accounts or frozen money. That morning felt like winning. Not the courtroom, not the orders, not Marissa's pale face. This, a child laughing in a kitchen that greedy people failed to steal. Months passed. Daniel kept showing up, not at my door uninvited, not with excuses. He sent letters first. Real letters, handwritten. The first one was 6 pages of apology, and only half of it was useful. The rest was still explanation: fear, pressure, marriage stress, shame, debt, Marissa's anger, his own weakness. I read it once and put it away. The second letter was shorter. He wrote, "I knew you were not confused. I let her say it because the lie helped me." That line mattered, not enough to heal everything. But truth is the first clean brick. The third letter came with a check for $500. Restitution from Daniel personally. I knew he did not have much. I also knew $500 could not touch what had been taken. But money was not the point. The point was that for once, Daniel sent something without asking for anything back. I did not call him. Not yet. I deposited the check into Lily's trust. On Father's Day, he sent a card. Inside, he wrote only one sentence. "I understand if I do not deserve to hear your voice today." I sat with that card for a long time. Then I called him. When he answered, he did not speak right away. Neither did I. Finally, he said, "Hi, Dad," 2 words. Small, broken, still mine. I said, "Hello, Daniel." He cried then, not loudly. I listened. I did not forgive him that day. Forgiveness is not a switch. It is a road. Some people never reach the end of it. Some people do. But they walk slowly because the ground is full of glass. I told him I was willing to have coffee in a public place. No money talk, no property talk, no Marissa talk unless Lily's safety required it. He agreed. We met at a diner on Route 6, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and waitresses who call everyone honey. Daniel arrived 10 minutes early. That mattered. He wore jeans and an old jacket I recognized from before Marissa began dressing him like a brochure. He looked tired. Human. We talked about Lily's school, his apartment, my roses. At the end, he said, "I keep thinking about the night you asked if I knew." I stirred my coffee. "So do I. I should have said the truth sooner." "Yes," I said. He winced but nodded. Then he asked, "Do you hate me?" I looked out the window at trucks passing on wet pavement. "No," I said. "Hate would be easier." He closed his eyes. "I don't know how to be your son after what I did." I looked back at him. "Start by not asking me to forget." He nodded. That became our beginning. Not a happy ending, a beginning. Marissa, meanwhile, moved 2 counties away after the divorce. She tried once to challenge the trust amendment, claiming I had been influenced by Rebecca. The court dismissed it quickly. She tried to contact Lily through social media accounts made under relatives' names, and the custody coordinator documented it. After that, her visitation remained supervised longer than she expected. People like Marissa do not understand that control is not the same as love. They call consequences cruelty. They call boundaries abuse. They call locked doors betrayal because they were happiest when they had the key. One afternoon, nearly a year after that phone call, I received a final restitution notice. A portion of recovered funds had been returned. Not all, never all. Theft leaves scratches even when money comes back. I placed the notice inside the leather binder. The binder was thinner now. Rebecca had the official files. The court had its copies. The bank had its reports. But I kept one binder at home, not because I wanted to relive it, because sometimes old men need reminders too. A reminder that kindness without boundaries becomes an invitation to the wrong people. A reminder that family can be loved from a safe distance. A reminder that calm is not weakness. That evening I carried the binder to the fireplace. For a while, I considered burning it. The flames were low and orange. The house smelled like oak smoke and coffee. Ellen's picture watched from the mantel. I opened the binder one last time. The first page still read, "Whitman Family Emergency Account Review." I remembered Daniel's panicked voice. "Dad, why did you freeze the account?" "My wife can't pay." Back then, he thought the frozen account was the emergency. He did not understand. The emergency had been my family. The account was just where the truth finally stopped running. I closed the binder. I did not burn it. Instead, I placed it in the bottom drawer of my desk, beneath tax records and old warranty papers. Evidence had done its job. It did not need fire. It needed rest. Then I walked to the porch. The evening was cool. The roses moved softly in the wind. Across the street, a neighbor's dog barked at nothing. The porch light glowed yellow against the blue siding. My truck sat in the driveway, old and reliable, with mud on the tires. For the first time in a long while, I felt the house breathing with me instead of around me. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Lily wants to know if Pancake Saturday is still happening." I looked toward the kitchen. The apple magnet held Lily's drawing firmly to the refrigerator. "Safe place." I typed back, "Yes. Tell her I bought blueberries." Then I turned the phone over and sat in the quiet. I did not get all my money back. I did not get my old trust back. I did not get the version of my son I thought I had raised. But I kept my home. I protected my granddaughter. I stopped a lie before it became a legal cage. And I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing an old man can do is not shout, not beg, not explain, but close the account, lock the door, and let the truth arrive on schedule. People asked later if I regretted freezing the money. I always answered the same way. No, because I did not freeze their life. I froze the place where their lies were hiding. I did not lose my family that night. I found out who was never truly family at all. If you were in my place, would you forgive your own child after something like this? Tell me in the comments, and tell me where you are watching from. Sometimes the people who call us cruel are only angry because we finally stop being useful.